What's up guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to talk about the case of Ágnes Ákom. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. And don't forget to turn on notifications button. Now, without further ado, let's go to the video. Ágnes Ákom, better known as Dora, was a 20-year-old Hungarian girl. She was from Miskolc, a city with just over 155,000 inhabitants, considered one of the most industrialized cities in Hungary. In 2017, age 15, she moved to London, the capital of England in Great Britain. Some sources mention that she would have moved with her family, while others mention that she moved there illegally, searching for a better life. Due to being an immigrant, Ágnes would have had a difficult life. She worked for a long time as a dancer in some nightclubs in the city, from the age of 17, and also in a coffin factory. At the time the case takes place, Ágnes was living in a simple house in Brent, north of London, along with her boyfriend, who was also from Hungary. From what it shows on their social media, the two had a child together in 2018, but I didn't find information if this child was raised by them or by their relatives. Although Ágnes had a steady job as a nightclub dancer and at the coffee factory, she also worked as a call girl, something her boyfriend was not aware of. Well, you know that here in the videos I bring you, I usually talk a lot about the victim, what they like to do, their personalities, their achievements, dreams, and etc. But unfortunately, regarding Ágnes, I didn't find much information, and everything I got about her before the crime is what I narrated at the beginning here. Well, moving on May 9, 2021, Ágnes left the house and told her boyfriend that she was going to work. However, at the end of the day, she didn't return home. For 2 days, Ágnes didn't communicate with her boyfriend nor her family. Out of concern, her boyfriend decided to go to London's Metropolitan Police on May 11th and report her missing. In the following days, an abuse statement was made in various means of communication, with Ágnes' photos and her information, as well as several posters and pamphlets that were spread by friends and volunteers. According to information from the London Police Department, they received around 100 missing persons reports every day. Most of these people are found, but in Ágnes' case, it had been a week and not even a small clue as to where she might be had emerged. With that, the case was handed over to the Met Specialized Crime Command. During investigations, Specialized Crime Command detectives realized that Ágnes was very active on her social media, where she used to post photos almost every day. The lack of movement on her social media since the day she disappeared helped detectives rule out the remote hypothesis that she simply ran away on her own. This hypothesis suggested that Ágnes just wanted to be away from her family and her boyfriend for unknown reasons. Later, detectives discovered that Ágnes had used her bank card at a coffee chain on the morning of the same day of her disappearance, and with that, they finally got a foothold to investigate. When checking the surveillance cameras of the establishment and nearby, they were able to see that around 11:47 a.m., Ágnes left the cafeteria with a glass of iced coffee, wearing jeans and a white faux fur coat. Shortly thereafter, she enters a vehicle on Cricklewood Broadway. Through the security camera footage, detectives were able to identify the license plate of that vehicle, which led them to a man named Nikolai Paisan. Nikolai was 64 years old, of Romanian origin, and working as a truck driver. Detectives decided to gather more information about him and discovered that he had a nice house located in a middle-class neighborhood. They then went to that house intending to talk to the man, but to their surprise, they discovered that Nikolai didn't live there. Detectives proceeded to investigate further to see if they could find any clues that would lead them to Nikolai's real address, until they discovered that he lived in a makeshift house in a shipping container ward on North Acton Road in Brent. Coincidentally, Ágnes' cell phone had given the last signal in the same area where Nikolai's makeshift house was located. Through this, The detectives got a search warrant and broke into Nikolai's container, but the place was completely empty. There was nothing there, and also no sign of the suspect. While the police carried out a forensic examination of the container in search of any kind of evidence, even the smallest one, Nikolai arrived at the scene. When asked about Ágnes' whereabouts, Nikolai said that he had met her only 2 weeks before, but that he had no involvement in her disappearance, and also had no idea where she could be. Detectives decided to take the man to the police department in Wembley to give an official statement. Meanwhile, other police officers were in charge of looking for images from security cameras in the vicinity of the container. During this testimony, Nikolai claimed that the day Ágnes disappeared, she sent him messages saying she needed money. He would then have offered her 20 euros, but in return, she would have sex with him. According to him, Ágnes accepted the offer, and after meeting at a place agreed by both, they went to his container, which was the makeshift house as I mentioned. There, they stayed together for a few minutes, and then Ágnes left. Well, that was Nikolai's version, but the footage from the security cameras installed around the container showed otherwise. Ágnes actually got Nikolai into that container on the morning of May 9th, but she was never seen leaving the premises. Due to the inconsistencies in his testimony, Nikolai Paisan was arrested on suspicion of having committed a crime against Ágnes, and after that, he decided to remain silent. In the following days, detectives obtained footage that showed Nikolai carrying various items that belonged to Ágnes, such as the white faux fur coat that she was wearing the day she disappeared. That coat was later found in a park, and after undergoing forensic analysis, it was proven that there was blood on it, and that blood belonged to Ágnes. In searches carried out inside Nikolai's car, traces of Ágnes' blood were also found, which made the detectives come to the conclusion that she had suffered a serious injury and possibly was no longer alive. With all this evidence in hand, detectives questioned Nikolai again and again. He denied any involvement in Ágnes' disappearance. However, since there was already enough evidence linking Nikolai to the disappearance, he was kept under arrest and formally charged with the crime. Investigations continued, and around 60 tons of rubbish that had been picked up in the vicinity of Nikolai's makeshift home was sifted through and checked for further evidence, but nothing was found. Through security camera footage, it was discovered that Nikolai had gone to an empty lot with trees near a park called Needsing Recreation Park that was in the west of London. Detectives, along with a police search team, went to that location to carry out searches, and there, they found a plastic bag containing some of Ágnes' clothes and a small electric cutting tool that still had pieces of the victim's scalp and tufts of hair. On June 14, 2021, more than a month since the disappearance, sniffer dogs were taken to the area where the police had found this latest evidence. For the authorities, there were high chances that Ágnes' body was in the vicinity of the site. In a short time of searching, the sniffer dogs pointed to a specific area, and in that area, the remains of Ágnes Ákom were found buried. Ágnes had her body divided into parts, and it was in a shallow grave covered with some rubble in order to hide the disturbed earth. But it didn't help as the sniffer dogs were able to find the victim by smell. According to Neil John, chief inspector of the police, the condition of Ágnes' body was one of the most disturbing and shocking things his team has seen in the years of work. An analysis carried out on the body by a coroner found that the cause of death of Ágnes was due to several blows that she suffered in the head with a solid and heavy object, probably the same electric cutting tool that was found with some of her clothes. The analysis also found that the victim was violently attacked and practically had no chance of reaction. Later, detectives discovered that Ágnes and Nikolai had been involved for over a year, having met 54 times in the past 12 months. According to the phone records of both, they would have met in a supermarket parking lot. At the time, Ágnes was asking for money in the parking lot, and that's when Nikolai approached her and said he would help her, but in exchange, she would have to sleep with him. From then on, the two began to meet frequently whenever Ágnes needed money. According to some of the victim's friends, she not only met with Nikolai, but with at least 5 to 8 different men, and her main source of income came from these services. With the discovery of the body and other evidence, Nikolai was questioned again by the detectives, and this time he gave another version of the facts. According to him, he and Ágnes would have met outside a coffee shop on May 9th, as she had asked him for money and exchanged the two left together. The young woman would have voluntarily gone to his makeshift house in a container and took a glass of iced coffee with her. As soon as they entered the container, before they began to have intercourse, Ágnes would have given the glass of iced coffee to Nikolai, saying that she was satisfied and that he could have the rest. After taking a few sips, Nikolai would have started to feel sick. His mouth was dry, and he deduced that Ágnes had doped him with the coffee. Then everything would have gone dark for him, and he couldn't move anymore, falling unconscious. When he was regaining conscious, Nikolai felt Ágnes push something against his mouth, causing him severe pain. By instinct, he would have pushed her, causing the object that was in his mouth, which was introduced by Ágnes, to be pulled with great force, pulling out the 2 incisor teeth that were in the front. Then, according to him, he had a kind of amnesia and claimed not to remember in detail what he did, but after getting up and washing his face, he found Ágnes already lifeless, wrapped in a bunch of dirty clothes and cloths. He would have been in a state of panic and knew that no one would believe his version of the story, so he didn't call the police and decided to get rid of her body so he wouldn't get into trouble. It turns out that the evidence collected by the police and also the security camera footage do not match Nikolai's timeline. From the time Ágnes enters the container until the time Nikolai comes out alone with the blood stains on his clothes, it's only 35 minutes, and by the way Nikolai told in this version, at least 1 hour would have passed. And about his front teeth being knocked out, in fact, he doesn't have them, but they were taken out years ago. Despite all evidence pointing to this version of events as false, Nikolai stood his ground and told detectives that that was the truth. In July 2022, the trial of Nikolai Paisan for the crime against Ágnes Ákom began. In court, evidence was presented that Nikolai took the life and divided Ágnes' body into parts, and in the sequence, he used a cart with a dumpster to carry these parts to his car, also emphasizing that the crime could not have been a simple accident, as Nikolai stated in his testimony, since the victim had been hit several times, indicating that the aggressor was very angry. Prosecutors even put forward the theory that Ágnes had changed her mind and no longer wanted to be with Nikolai. With that, due to the rejection, the man would have been enraged and decided to take the young woman's life. As for the question of Nikolai being doped by Ágnes with the iced coffee, it has never been proven, and for the authorities, this was pure invention. At the end of his trial, Nikolai Paisan pleaded guilty to transporting and hiding the body, but denied that he intended to commit the crime. He also said that it was all an accident, and that it was Ágnes' fault for trying to drug him. Nikolai Paisan was found guilty of the crime against Ágnes Ákom, and sentenced by the jury to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 22 years of his sentence. He is currently incarcerated in a prison on the outskirts of London, where he will spend many years of his life. Ágnes' boyfriend and father of her son told the court that before she was a victim of the crime, they were writing a letter to their son, who was adopted by another family, but that after he no longer knows how to deal with the situation and believes that he would not be able to write this letter without her. Alright folks, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching until the end, best wishes, and I see you next time.